All right, welcome. So today is the first day of our active learning course on EOSC and specifically targeting trainers on training about EOSC. So it makes sense this first module is preparing to train about EOSC. Welcome for joining us. This will be recorded and shared later, but first of all, we want to welcome you. So you're joined by myself, Kim, and my colleagues Ellie Dijk, Pascal Flor, and Daniel Thomas Lopez, and we will be your trainers today. So yeah, first you have a welcome from me, and we have about 15 minutes just to introduce you to what EOSC Future is and what we intend to do today. And as people slowly stream in, that's fine. And then we'll go over a material that we've prepared. It is a video, and this video, we'll watch it together, but also know that you can use this video for your own training. It will become available soon. And then we'll go into a discussion on what EOSC means to you, and then we'll go into breakout rooms to talk about the pre-reading that was done and how EOSC can be integrated into research. Following that, we'll recap on what we learned in the breakout rooms and share any insights that were there. And then we'll finish up by talking about answering questions about EOSC. And really, we want to leave that open to be like, what kind of questions can you get about EOSC and how can you best answer them? So with that, yeah, so the objectives for today are to enrich your understanding of EOSC. So we did ask, like you should have some familiarity with EOSC, you are a trainer, but really it's such a broad and over such a huge topic. How can you enrich your own understanding of it, as well as increasing your confidence in providing training? And that's what the 4 modules that we offer this week are all about. You'll also meet other trainers, so you're all together in this session right now, and learn about upcoming training. So with that, I will ask you to go to this Menti link, which will also be shared in the chat. And we'll start with some questions there. So I'm just going to switch to my Menti.
Can you put the link in the chat? Is it possible?
Yeah, someone will be.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is the link in the chat now? Yes. Perfect. Okay. So the first question that we wanted to know is where are you joining us from? And the winner for first in is from Ireland, followed closely by Austria. Netherlands, I mean, 3 of your 4 trainers are based in the Netherlands, so that was bound to happen. Okay. Office, you're joining us from the country of Office. Montenegro. Oxford is its own land. Well, we did say where are you joining us from? We didn't say which country, so that leaves some lovely specificity in this. Oxford, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Netherlands, that always happens. Sweden, Italy, excellent. So as you can see, we have a bit of a wide range of where people are joining us from, but we're all here to talk about the same thing, which is about training on EOSC. So with that, I will go to the next question for you, which is kind of a way that we kind of collect, who are we talking to? And so of the sectors listed here, which would you say applies to you or your work? You could select up to 3. Just take your time. So far, 1 scientific. Yep. Oh, other. And if you answer other, I would love to know in the chat what other is. And then Ellie, if someone says an other, what it is, you let me know. Policymakers, excellent. So lots of scientific background going on here. General public. Civil society, good, yeah. Librarian. Okay. Yeah, I would put that under other because it's this lovely area in between. Management. All right. So as we can see, we have a heavily going towards scientific, but I think that makes sense. It's the European Open Science Cloud. So, and the final question we have to get to know you is, have you conducted any training on EOSC before? So very simple, yes or no. If you have maybe were you accidentally training on EOSC or something like that? So I see a lot of no's, which isn't necessarily surprising. You're here to prepare your training on EOSC for sure. I see one yes.
More answers.
Well, on an outstanding 23-1. I don't know how many people could tip the scales there, but that's great because now we're going to put you into a position where you can better provide training on EOSC.
There are a few remarks in the chat. I'm working on EOSC Future project on widening engagement.
Okay, nice.
This is another, what are you doing? Open Science Scientific Manager.
Okay, cool. So I think that's it for these first ones. Yes, so I will just switch back to my presentation where I'm going to tell you all about EOSC Future. So I mentioned today is module 1. That's today, preparing to train about EOSC. So the active learning course that we have this week has 4 separate modules. You can actually attend all of them. Even if you weren't sure, you can still attend. We're more than welcome. The link works for all 4 days. And the recordings will be shared along with the resources that come from these modules, and that'll all be shared through the wiki. So tomorrow is about using the EOSC portal, and like a note there, the EOSC portal is an ever-changing environment. So it's going to be more about the elements of the EOSC portal, and maybe it will look a little different from what the training gives, but it will like over time, it will turn into a more complete portal. And then on Wednesday, we have addressing legal and ethical issues related to EOSC use. And then on Thursday, more about crafting your own training, and that has more of a pedagogical lean to it. So with that though, you can see EOSC Future here, EOSC Future, and you might be like, okay, so like what is EOSC Future? So the further training that we offer is targeted towards different audiences. So our audience is trainers, and that's the training that we're giving today, but there will be training in the future for other actors such as consumers, providers, etc. There will also be self-paced online trainings later in 2023 in the EOSC Knowledge Hub, which you can learn more about on Thursday. So, but what is EOSC Future? So EOSC Future is a project that is funded and will be running until September of next year. And it's all about extending the use of the EOSC as well as providing training. So you can see the elements here, and really it breaks down into becoming more innovative, more streamlined, and easier to reproduce research. And with that, there are thematic pillars to EOSC Future, where we're like looking at policy and strategy, the technology and interoperability, always promoting excellent science, as well as development and procurement of services, user engagement, and what we focus on here, skills and training. So the skills and training element is to train both users and providers to make the most of the EOSC environment, and establishing a knowledge hub. And so the Knowledge Hub will build a network of expert trainers and catalog existing support materials, and it is coming very soon. So with that, one of the first materials that I want to introduce to you here is a video that was made by my colleague Ellie. And so I will just get that going. And so this video, we're going to watch it. It's about 9 minutes and it is captioned, and this will become a resource that is later available for you to use in your own training. So you're going to learn from it now, but you can also use it later in your own training.
Welcome to my presentation. My name is Ellie Dijk and I'm involved in Work Package 9, Training and Skills of the EOSC Future project. Today I'll give a short meta overview about the European Open Science Clouds. These slides can be used in further presentations. This is the outline of my presentation. I'll give more information on the background of the EOSC, like the vision and ambition. I'll talk about the strategic research and innovation agenda that forms the basis for the EOSC, and that will be followed by a short introduction to the EOSC Association, and my last slide is how to keep up to date about EOSC. First, more information on the background of EOSC. The European Open Science Cloud aims to make it easier for researchers in Europe to share and combine data across boundaries and also across disciplines. Here, open science is the norm. In this context, the data and other digital objects like publications should be available under the FAIR principles. That means that the data must be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. The EOSC is based on existing research infrastructures. In that way, the EOSC can give Europe a global lead in research data management and enables its interdisciplinary research to address societal problems. As I already said, the ambition of the EOSC is to develop a web of fair data and services for science in Europe and be a multidisciplinary environment where researchers can publish, find and reuse data, tools and services, enabling them to better conduct their work. Important is that it will be built on existing infrastructures and services supported by the European Commission, member states and research communities. These will be brought together in a federated system of systems, adding value by aggregating content and enabling services to be used together. It's important to provide well-defined conditions to ensure trust. So there are requirements for service and data providers, and users will be made explicit to ensure appropriate behavior. For example, to cite the data they reuse. So what are the advantages for the researchers, as the goal is to make it easier for researchers in Europe to share and combine data? EOS will give them seamless access to content and services via common AAI. They will have access to data from various sources, which is fair and ideally open. But keep in mind that it is as open as possible, as closed as necessary. Examples are personal data, confidential data, biological data, etc. The researchers will have access to services for storage, computation, analysis, and preservation. There will be an adoption of standards so data and services can be combined. That is also the I in interoperability of FAIR data shows. There will be a help desk, and the researchers will get training and support to improve use of the EOSC. The strategic research and innovation agenda of the EOSC forms the basis for the development of the EOSC. The purpose of the SRIA is to define the general framework for future strategic research, development and innovation activities in relation to the EOSC. This framework will be further developed in the Horizon Europe program. Target audiences are research performing organizations, research funders, service providers, governmental organizations, companies and citizens. The European Commission is key stakeholder for the SRIA as it's used to inform the work programs. Version 1 of the SRIA was finalized in early 2021, and the next years there will be updates. At this moment, this version is the latest one. You can download the SRIA, and here you see the structure. Important is the EOS multi-annual roadmap from 23-24. You can find it on the website. This section proposes a work plan for the 23-24 period, taking into account the activities delivered in the first stage, 21-22, and those forthcoming under the relevant Horizon Europe program for the next years. 3 overarching objectives form the driving force in building EOSC and developing the EOSC ecosystem. These are laid out in a matrix known as the EOSC Objectives Tree, which it identifies the main problems, barriers, objectives, and benefits. It will take too much time to discuss it all, but as you can see, problems are that too little is being done about open science, researchers do not combine or reuse data, and infrastructures do not share open science standards. The objective of the EOSC is to overcome these problems. The set of guiding principles is what I've said before. The EOSC will be research community centered, and the involved organizations have to do it together. Openness and fair principles are important. EOSC will be based on existing and future research infrastructures, and it has to be machine actionable. The EOS roadmap is divided in 3 stages. The first stage, 21-22, is the development towards added value from a functional federation of infrastructures. Stage 2, expansion to production that generates added value, is described in the multi-annual roadmap 23-24. The last stage, 25-27 and beyond, is the expansion to develop impact from open science. You can read more information on this slide about these 3 stages. My next slides are about the EOSC Association. There are several groups involved in setting the development of the EOSC. First of all, the European Commission. The EOSC Association is a legal entity established to govern the EOSC. It has been established in 2020 with 4 founding members and has since grown to over 200 members and observers. Members can be organizations like My Institute Dance or legal entities like Open Air. The EOSC Steering Board has been established to strategically advise the European Commission on the EU policy for research data infrastructure and services, especially regarding the development of the EOSC. There are 5 advisory groups that provide an umbrella for a set of task forces. These 13 task forces focus on key areas of implementation of the EOSC. They liaise with the EOSC projects and offer feedback on developments, identify strategic gaps and areas for investment. Several hundred members of the community offer their expertise to shape the future direction of EOSC. And here you see the 5 advisory groups and the task forces. The task forces are focused on the different topics to develop the EOSC. The advisory groups are the implementation of EOS, metadata and data quality, research careers and curricula, technical challenges on EOS, and sustaining the EOSC. Of course, there are more ways to learn more about EOS, besides presentations and trainings from different EOS projects like EOS Future. And here on this slide, you can see the links to learn more about EOSC and keep informed. Thank you for your attention.
Great. So that was the video from Ellie. And like I mentioned, this will become available after this training. We will put it on the wiki. So Eleonora asks, the info will, so exactly. The video for now will be put on the wiki, and then we're working on the long term having it uploaded to YouTube, but you can imagine there's a lot of moving parts there to make it available. So we're going to first aim for the wiki. And now I just need to find my presentation again. And let me check. Is there a question in the chat or no? Brilliant. Okay, excellent. So that was from Ellie. So then our next set of questions, and we want to open this up for a bit more general discussion because we want to know from where you're starting. But the question is, what does the EOSC mean to you, both as a trainer as well as a potential user or consumer of the EOSC? So again, we're asking you for doing another Menti because that's what we do. So what does the EOSC mean to you? This is entirely open. You can leave as much information or comment as you want. Sharing. Lots of confusion. So hopefully we're here to clear that up. And I think over time it will become more clear. A big gulash. Good. A messy opportunity. I think I like that. It's messy, but it's an opportunity. A meeting point for science and research community, access to multiple sources. So here we're hearing elements of both communication between entities, but also access to data, to services, service providers. Yeah, I have to scroll. Making research infrastructure fair. And yes, a unique place that all can join with necessary things together. Sharing data, making research infrastructure fair, open science. So I think we're all hitting on the same notes, and important on a conceptual level, not yet in practice. So we're working on it. Cultural change, that's a great one. Too much effort without a clear goal. So that I would like fair. And certainly like within the EOSC Association and the different projects, there are user groups and feedback groups where like this information is also valuable that we can improve or that it can be improved. Not sure how to use. So certainly tomorrow's presentation on the EOSC portal will aim to work on some of that. Elizabeth. All right, too big to fail. All right, so that's what the EOSC means to you. The next question that we have then. So enter up to 3 words or phrases that describe your current understanding of EOSC. And again, that can be your understanding as a trainer, but also as a user, researcher, or policymaker. Fair, open, and infrastructure. Lots of good intentions. Not clear, so that's more than 3, but I get what you mean. Okay. Single entry point across disciplines. It is aspirational. A mystery. Okay. And infrastructure. Too early to use. Okay. Federated network only for those that comply with rules of participation. Bowling alley lanes to guide opportunities to open science. So are the bowling alley lanes with or without bumpers? I guess is the question to think of. Are there many gutter balls in this bowling alley? A lot of work, fair. I see a lot of fair, which is good. Infrastructure, federated, all right. So I can click on things. Okay, the final data compliance. I think the final question that we have here. So those how it means to you. I guess the question here is what it means to the communities that you're planning to train on. So that can be a different perspective, whether you're training users from a library or from a university infrastructure, versus if you are at a institute or you yourself are a service provider. Improve quality of research. And this is like how the framing towards your training community will start. When you are aiming to train people, you often have to get a buy-in of why it would be beneficial to participate in the EOSC, what the EOSC can do for you, whether it's in theory or in practice. So strengthening digital sovereignty, yeah. Make research and its management more manageable. Manage the management. Cohesion, opportunity for changes in data management, get visibility, good. Sharing data between research means a better use of the resources, yeah. Once EOSC convinces us to embrace it. Improvement, all right. So these are all in the direction of the betterment of science, the betterment of research, and also improving the lives of researchers who want to work open and fair as well. That would be a great opportunity. So with that, I think that was the last, yes. So that's the last question for now. Which then we are going to go to the next session, which we're going to talk about the pre-reading that we gave you to do, the homework, if you want to consider it that way, where we were asking how EOSC can be integrated into research. So. For my Zoom people, this is where we're going to go into breakout rooms. And essentially what you're going to do is you'll have the document that we sent you to try and think about the different connections between EOSC and the different infrastructures such as ERICs or research organizations and how they interact with EOSC. And so you'll be in breakout rooms with the trainers, and then you'll be working on Jamboards together.
I don't know if you want to maybe share the Jamboards, Kim?
Would you like to do the screen sharing?
Yeah, I can do the screen share.
That's
it
totally
will
fine.
throw you out. So just so people can see what the other Jamboards are. Let me know if you can't see a Jamboard, if you suddenly see something else, because I'm sharing my general screen.
No, you're good.
You know what it's like. So I'll start with the one of the room I was in. Actually, I'm just flicking through very quickly. Sorry if it's making everyone dizzy. Just to see if it's sort of comparable. But basically, we started off also, I think one of the things was there is overlap, right? So sometimes an infrastructure is also doing research, and these are not always clear-cut boundaries. In terms of the ERICs, sorry, I was starting to type what the ERIC stands for, but I got cut off there, but I think everyone knows by now, right? But that because they get assigned this status at some point, so was a bit of an easier one to know if something is an ERIC or not. And so we came up with several examples, and I think if I can see in the other ones, other boards, they're probably the same example. So we had someone from LifeWatch in our group, so that wasn't a straightforward one, and I could see very similar ones. And yes, as we said in our group, what each of these is, it's got something that you can look into for yourself. And also one of the things that we also said, like they have also local nodes or country nodes. So for example, we had someone in our group said there's an Elixir node in Ireland. So that is one of the things you can look up for your context. If you see these ERICs and you're a bit like, okay, what are they? It's one thing to look up. And then if they're, available in your country or have a local node. Now the infrastructure, so we took this quite broad, but maybe this, I think this is similar in other groups, but basically who has, I see the example of Surf here in breakout room 2. There's also something that we mentioned, we didn't put it down, but we have EU dot here. But basically we said, and I think this is the same in other groups, but it's interesting to see that some different examples. We also had the NFDI one, but basically infrastructures where things like, so for some people wasn't completely clear, but basically where you can maybe have computing, you can have maybe storage, that sort of thing, right? And just looking through what's interesting here, I see the open air community of practice for the training networks. That's also something that we added, and the carpentries in room 2 and CESTA training group. We also had one in our group mentioned the REGIC. And so we basically a lot of different examples actually with the community of practice, maybe an overarching one, which is relevant for EOS, because that's maybe relevant to mention, but it will be coming back in, especially on Thursday, if you're attending Thursday as well. But we had some, I don't know if this was the same for all groups, but we also talked a bit about, okay, what is a research consortia exactly in this exercise? Of course, people know what a research consortium is, but how does it work? Because people were aware of a lot of research consortia in their field generally, but not always if it relates to EOSC, or if they're already doing something with EOSC, if it would be relevant. Although we had also a few examples of where especially sharing of data could be very relevant in theory for them. And one example that might be interesting to highlight was Disco, because they're already integrating with EOSC. So they're, if I say this incorrectly, please correct me. But they're natural history collections, so mostly museums, connecting their collections in terms of, so you basically can find, if you want to know where, simply said, this insect is, it can be, you can find it throughout all the different natural history collections. So that was one example of research institutions working together and already integrating with each other. And just looking at the other ones, I see IRIS here, or ERISE sometimes said, so the Cultural Heritage one, and the Research Data Alliance.
Yeah, it looks like a good overview. Daniel, did you have anything in particular from your room that you wanted to point out before we go to break? And thank you, Pascal.
Sorry. That was for Daniel, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, we also use the chat to share some links and resources, and then I have been pasting those to the Google Doc of our group, which Yeah, so it has nice links also we can share afterwards. Yeah, okay, so basically this is just a few questions. Also, it's going to be also using a Mentimeter, kind of to show you that you know more about EOSC than you believe, or if you don't, you are getting to know that during these sessions, and that is already useful knowledge that you can share. So yes, so again, these are also common questions that both us and probably you get about EOSC. So also in previous trainings that we have done, this is some of the questions we are going to see are questions that people have actually put, like what is this, what is that. Here we are also going to show possible answers, but many times there's not going to be like a single answer or like a only correct answer. Like even the questions of what is EOSC itself, there are different ways to define it. And again, that is fine. You don't have to expect to have a single answer to everything, you know, to say, oh, just even if you can think of different possibilities, that can be fine, you know, and that you should feel confident enough to share that. Okay, so so again, I would like to ask you to go to Menti. You can scan the QR code, or probably it works better if you do it on a computer.
Yeah,
I have
It
put
is
the
a
chat.
different code than the first part. So get out of the Menti from mine and go to a different one.
Yeah. And then there are going to be the classical Menti questions, and then I will share here some slides that if you are doing it on your phone, they are also going to appear on your phone like very small slides. Ignore those. Basically, follow my slides in the big screen and just complete the questions in the Mentimeter. Okay, so first question is, can you give a definition of the European Open Science Cloud? Are you able now to think for yourself, okay, what is EOSC? If someone asks me what is EOSC, is it like I have no idea what EOSC is? Is it more or less, I have some idea? It's like, well, I feel comfortable. I can talk about EOSC even if I haven't really used it. Or is it like, oh, I feel really, I can teach about EOSC perfectly.
So Daniel, no one feels comfortable.
No one feels comfortable in teaching about EOSC, but we have a majority that says I can more or less describe EOSC, which, and also a decent group that says I feel comfortable in talking about EOSC. And what I want to share is that probably people around you, your students, maybe researchers in your institution, other colleagues you work with, maybe they are all in the I barely know what EOSC stands for. So this means that you're already ahead of those, and you can already share that because it's already going to be useful for those. Okay. If at any point anyone wants to comment on any of the questions, please go ahead. If you want to share your experience, you can put it in the chat or just speak. Okay. So as I said before, there's not always a single answer. Oh, sorry, Kim, go ahead.
No, I will be in charge of telling Daniel what the chat says because he can't see it right now.
Okay.
So from Sven, it depends on whether you like my description of EOSC.
And this is what I said, and here you can see this slide. There's not even a single definition of what is EOSC. So depending on the source, if you go to maybe the EOSC portal website or the EOSC Synergy, which is one of the EOSC projects, you know, like there are different definitions, different ways to explain what's EOSC. You know, it can be an environment for hosting and processing research data for supporting EU science. It's a European web of fair data and services for science. A virtual environment with open and seamless services for research data. So there's not a single way to define it, and that is fine. Again, probably you already know more than your colleagues or your trainees. Okay.
So I have two. One is from Armin, who says, I would not yet be comfortable to teach a specific EOSC training, but very comfortable integrating it into more general lessons on open science. So that's beautiful, Armin. That's precisely what we want. And then Sven says, like, it isn't described in the project description. probably, because that would then limit what the project could ever become, and it's a changing landscape, but that would be my guess.
I would just ask there as well, I'm sorry, which project are we talking about here?
So I guess that's for Sven over project description, EOSC Future.
Right, okay, that's interesting.
I mean, I
So
know.
I'm sorry, my camera's stopped working. So yes and no. There is a definition of what EOSC Future is doing, but that's not necessarily. It depends again who you're speaking to about the definition of what EOSC is. But certainly there's a definition, of course, there's a clear definition of what EOSC Future is doing in terms of the services that it's building towards the realization of what EOSC is. But depending on whether it's the EOSC Association or some other projects that are feeding into EOSC, it can have some varying definitions as well.
Thanks a lot, Venkat. Well, just to clarify, in case people do not know, Venkat is the work package leader of the training work package in EOSC Future. So he's one of the most knowledgeable persons in the room. But also to say, actually, what Venkat said is very true. Like there are a lot of EOSC projects and EOSC nomenclature, and we are going to have a question about that later. So thank you all for these comments. And also, like, for example, what Armin said. Yeah, that's what we want. Like people that can already start, we already want you to start integrating this in your general lessons. Let's go to another question. Wait. Yeah, okay. Okay, you should see now this, you should now see this one. Is EOSC aimed at a specific scientific field or theme? Option is yes, it has a specific field. It is aimed at different topics of natural sciences. It is aimed at all science fields. And for the moment, we have a winner. I hope it's not social pressure and people are really convinced of what they are answering.
I don't think they fell for your trap, Daniel.
Yeah, so EOSC is not only for science field, it's not only for life sciences or natural sciences, it is for all domains. And I can see in the chat that some Joan asked about the humanities, because even the way that it's defined or something, some groups maybe not feel that if they are integrated there or not. But just to say that EOSC is about every kind of I think you had the other day a very good word about it. Instead of saying science, what was it? I remember you told me a very good word.
Scholarship.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
You know, like humanities there, social sciences are there. And just to say that EOSC is working with this European strategy of research infrastructures, which work in cluster projects or themes. So for example, you have SHOCK, which is about social sciences and humanities, bringing that to the EOSC. You have EOSC Life, which is about bringing life sciences to the EOSC. And you have this for different fields. So you have this one, it's about environmental research or astronomy. So the idea is that EOSC is inclusive and is targeting all the fields. Okay. And in every slide here, you have the source of where this information is taken in case you want to find more information about it. Okay, another question. Where would you guide people who come to you asking about EOSC? Where should they start? This is a word cloud. So feel free to share your thoughts. There's no right or wrong answer. We want to know even where you start. Okay, someone said the EOS portal. Very good question. Yes, please also feel free to share. I'm not sure. I don't know. Google is always a very good starting point. EOSC Marketplace, EOSC page, infrastructure, I guess from Czech Republic. More EOSC Marketplace, the EOSC Association, biodata. EOSC portal stays big. I guess that several people have typed that. Okay, good. EU Commission Policy EOSC, National Node, EOSC Future as well. Okay. Okay. So let me move to the next slide. Okay, so here it appears the EOSC portal is the place to go, and I would say that's where you are going to have a lot of resources, and you are going to have, if you go to the tabs up here, you can read about the EOSC, you can find services and resources, you can find a lot of information, but many of the others says exactly. I was just going to say, as Kim put in the chat, there's not really a right answer. It's just that maybe this is the way where you want to finish, or you know. But of course, searching in Google for EOSC, you are going to get a lot of good information about EOSC. Searching in the website of the European Commission or in the website of a national node is also going to have good information. But the thing is that you realize that actually you know where to start. So you're going to have trainees or participants. People are going to ask you that they don't know even when to start. And you all have an idea of where to start. And there were several people who said EOSC portal. That was the main answer. So, and that means that you are already aware that the EOSC portal is there and EOSC portal exists. And that is not the case for others. Okay, so just realize that you do have that knowledge. Pauline, you raise your hand.
Yeah, no, just a comment about, I mean, if someone is asking me about the EOSC, I think the first thing I would try to find out is what they want to get from it, because I would not send them on the EOSC portal being like, everything is going to be clear and you will understand what it is. People are getting lost and they will not have more of a clue after getting lost on the portal after than before. I think it's the entire thing that I mean, I think I'm not the only one that has been facing that, is that we should not, I mean, at least it's not what we are trying to do, to give visibility to EOSC by itself, but more initiatives that are part of the EOSC. Because, I mean, first starting from the name, it's called the European Open Science Cloud. The EOSC has nothing of a cloud. It's beyond Europe in some cases. So it's a confusing thing. And I mean, our approach, and I'm not saying it's the right thing, is actually trying to get away from this very big thing and showcase some initiatives that could be considered part of EOSC. And of course, some of it would be on the EOSC portal. But I mean, the way, when we have been trying to communicate about EOSC as a big thing, people are just getting lost. They just understand more about a project, an initiative. They do not understand the big thing. I do not understand it, and I have been in this world of EOSC and EOSC project for 3 years. It's my opinion, but
please, very, very useful. And it's I mean, I'm going to answer. I think Kim wanted to answer. Someone might want to comment on this, but I think it's also very useful to share how it has worked for you to, as you say, to train or to teach others or to show to others. So people are like, us here in this room, we are aware, okay, maybe start with the little things or the very specific things rather than the big entity of EOSC. So I think at least defining it, and I mean saying, okay, this is the idea, this is the goal, maybe it's not happening now, or this is still very abstract, but at least you know what it's supposed to be. And now let me show you this that is very specific and it's really happening and it can be maybe more applicable to you. Kim, were you going to comment on this?
Well, no, I agree with you, Pauline, and thanks for bringing it up. And I think both Kyle and Armin in the chat are also touching upon the same issue. So Kyle said maybe the people needs to be defined. So how do we give instruction to researchers versus policy or providers who are looking to put their services into the cloud? So, or sorry, into the EOSC, there is no cloud, but, and then Armin said, it depends on who's asking. The portal seems a good starting point for researchers, but maybe not for support staff. And then, so that will come into, I know Daniel's next question, but So then Nana is like, good question. What would be a good starting point for support staff? And I think this, Daniel, this probably leads into your next, because it depends on who you are supporting as support staff and how domain specific you want to be, or in particular. And if you're unfamiliar with the portal, I would definitely say, give it a look, but it can be a bit overwhelming. And so definitely tomorrow's module on the portal will be helpful in that as well. And Lydia says the Shreya describes organization, past and future EOSC. So good definitions. But I will throw back to Daniel.
Okay. You know my slides, I think, better than me. Like I can't remember exactly the order of all my questions. But okay, so here just more it would be like a sharing question, like use cases or EOSC stories. Would they be helpful for you in showing why EOSC is valuable and relevant? Would that be something helpful? Again, no social pressure. If you really think that that's something that doesn't work in your context, just say, okay, we have a couple maybes and I don't know. In the meanwhile, also, Pauline said in the chat, Shreya is a very jargony thing for scientists. And I agree. You cannot, the same as EOSC, I'd say that something, it can be something a bit overwhelming as the concept of it. Okay, so for the majority of people who say that use cases or EOSC stories could help in knowing why EOSC is relevant, the good thing is that in the EOSC portal, there are already use cases and EOSC in practice stories. Okay, so if you go to the website of the EOSC portal, you have a tab of use cases, and you have more stories than these. I just had to cut it for the screen, but about how they can be used to measure environmental biodiversity data or supporting cross-disciplinary research. I mean, you just have to go and read it and see how you can apply it. But maybe there's a nice story that you can really use it as a very good example for your trainees to show them why EOSC is relevant, or why EOSC is going to be relevant for them in the future, or what is the goal of EOSC. Okay. Okay, I think this is also a word cloud, if I'm correct. So cite EOSC projects that you have heard of or worked on. So I think this relates a bit to the comment from Venkat from before.
There's at least one you should know. It's on the slide.
And if you don't know any, of course, you are welcome to say, I don't know any. Okay, so we have EOSC Future. Okay, thanks for paying attention to that. We have EOSC Synergy, EOSC Hub, Fair for EOSC, EOSC Live, Fair Impact. Someone doesn't know any. NIFOROS Europe, RDA for EOSC, by COVID, Fair is Fair, EOSC Pilot. Okay, a bunch.
I'm gonna throw in EOSC Nordic. I don't have my phone, but there, I put it out.
EOSC Nordic. So basically the answer, I'm not the answer, but if someone is wondering, okay, how many EOSC projects are there? The answer is that there are so many that we cannot even list them here, okay? But again, if you go to the EOSC portal, there's a section about EOSC projects. Is this something very useful? Well, maybe actually to go and have an idea of what kind of projects are there, or what's the purpose of EOSC projects, because it's even, so it's easy to say, what is this project about? What is this? I heard about EOSC Future, the same, this was in the beginning of this session, but there are many other projects. And just to give you an example, for example, Kim mentioned now the EOSC Nordic. EOSC Nordic, EOSC Synergy, EOSC Pillar, and NIFOROS Europe, for example, they are regional projects, meaning that they were created to contribute to the development of EOSC in specific countries. While some projects are regionally distributed, while other projects are for specific fields, like for example, EOSC Life, that is about life sciences and not about humanities. Yeah, the same way that Kyle put it in the chat, like SHOC is for social sciences and humanities. Okay. Yeah, so just to say, there are a lot of projects. You can find information in the portal. You don't need to learn them or anything like that, but there's a lot of information there. Okay. Okay, one question about the EOS portal, talking specifically. So this depends also how much you have used the EOS portal, maybe, or how much you have searched into it, looked into it. What kind of services and resources are available in the EOS portal?
Do you want to give an example, maybe?
So, for example, you can find publications that are in Zenodo. So maybe those are, I don't know, like best practices for doing something, or handbook for preparing training. You know, that might be a resource that then someone created as part of a project, and then they have shared it in the EOS portal. So now, instead of having to find it randomly in the website of each project, maybe you can go to the EOS portal directly and find that.
And a great example for the trainers in particular are the training materials that are listed on the portal and will soon be further added to the portal, is like knowing that there is a place you can look for training materials and other services that you want to use in your own training. You don't have to invent all your trainings from scratch. You should be able to use resources that exist and are able to be repurposed.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kim. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we can see a lot. We can see that people mention software. Again, we have to remember there's some, I don't know, analyze data, catalog, everything. The EOSC is about everything a bit sometimes, right? So it's not that I know them. It's simply that, again, if you go to the EOS portal and you go to services and resources, here you can see, you know, you have publications, you have software, you have service, you have training. So you have, just go and explore it. There's a lot there. And maybe even you go now and you don't think that things are applicable to you. Maybe they are in the future. It's under development, and the idea is that we centralize in things and put in there. Okay, maybe this is a question you get asked when you talk about EOSC in your institution, when you present EOSC. Where do you guide people or institutions who want to share a resource or service in the EOSC portal? Maybe this is a researcher, or maybe this is some other department in your institution who are creating a resource, something. So majority of people say, I don't know. Few people say the EOS Providers Hub. A couple others say to the contact email. Okay. So I would say, for those of you who answer, I don't know, well, I think you're going to get the answer now. And this is already like the first step and something you can share. The other big group now is to the EOS Providers Hub. And that's it. Also in the EOS portal, you have a link, you have a tab that is about the EOS Providers Hub. And if you go there, it tells you it's a single place for providers to learn why and how to become an EOS provider, the onboarding process, how to guide, do you want to onboard your services to the EOSC? So, and Kim shared the link in the chat, thanks for that. So personally, I don't know the details, but I know that if I go there, I have manual, I have instructions, and I can read about how to do this. So that's the goal. And now you already know more than others in your institution who are going to ask you, how do I share my resource? Okay. I think I have 2 more questions, Kim, but also I
think you can, you have a few more minutes, maybe pick one that's the most important, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, let me do this one just because I already showed it. So where can I find information about the open science policies developed in each country? So you're working in a country and you want to know what's going on there in terms of open science, or someone in your institution might tell you, okay, what's happening here? What's happening in France, in UK, in Spain? I don't know. EOSC portal countries tab. National research agencies, national representation. EOSC Observatory. I think I want to move on. I think this was maybe a tricky one, and people are wondering where. Again, doesn't have there. Probably there's not a single point, a single good answer. But just to let you know, in the EOSC portal there is a section that it's about policy, and this is something I shared in my breakout room. So it's something there's a section about policy with the countries where you can click on each country, and that takes you to a section for all the countries in Europe and what they are doing. Of course, this is going to depend on how much each country is updating their section. But, you know, for example, for the Czech Republic, then you have this link to the open access Czech Republic. For Spain, you have this document about recommendations for the Spanish institutions. So maybe it's not, again, think of it as a starting point, you know, to start finding information. Maybe you have other sources, but just to let you know, as an overview, you have this. And maybe I stop it here, Kim, but yeah, I hope it is just was useful for you just to realize you do know more about EOSC than what you think. And that's already more knowledge than others out there.
Brilliant, thank you. So to wrap up for today, just the last 5 minutes, I wanted to share that just a reminder that the rest of the trainings for this week, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday this time, as well as the same Zoom code, are also available to join. And all of the materials will be put on the wiki that I just put in the chat. So that also includes a practice quiz that Daniel's created that used some of the questions and answers that he's given you now through the Menti. So we were asking you as participants, and now we want to give you the resources to be able to take those questions and put them to your own audience, whoever that is, whether you're giving training to providers or researchers or other technicians. So the slides in the video that we shared earlier are going to be put up as soon as possible, hopefully by today, we'll see. And then, yeah, just make sure to check out the rest of the training if you're interested. For sure, tomorrow is going to be about the EOSC portal. Wednesday is going to be about legal and ethical issues while using the EOSC. And then Thursday is going to be about providing and making your own training materials and elements of pedagogy. There will be more training offered in 2023. And we will have the self-paced courses online on the EOSC Knowledge Hub in 2023 as well. You can find out more about the idea behind the Knowledge Hub on Thursday. And with that, I'll just say, you know, we have 4 minutes if you have any other questions you'd like to ask us. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. And we hope that you check out the rest of the training.